Welcome to Song Sessions. I'm your host, David Pomeranz, and today's guest is one of the most prolific and successful recording artists, songwriters, and concert performers of our time. His recordings have sold more than 85 million copies, making him one of the world's best-selling artists ever. He's had 51 top 40 singles, 13 of which went to #1 on the charts. He's a Grammy Award winner, 15-time Grammy nominee, and he has had at least one charted top 40 album, check this out, in every one of the past 5 decades. He's won Emmy Awards for his TV specials, written scores for successful musicals and animated features, and he's an inductee in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, a legend in our business for sure, but better still, he's a truly gifted musician and a really good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Barry Manilow.
Hi, David. Really, what a lovely intro. Thank you for all that.
You're sure welcome. So how are you doing out there? You're in Palm Springs?
I am. And, during this crazy year and a half, this has been a great place to hide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm luckier than most. I got a pretty big place, and I've got a really nice studio, and I keep myself busy. But boy, do I miss that work. I miss the band. I miss the crew. I miss the audiences. I miss the music.
Yes.
I've talked to my band and my friends, and everybody is just chomping at the bit to get back to work. I'm sure you are too.
Of course.
That we know. I think this has been the longest time I've ever been away from work. Making albums or
I know.
Or going on the road. Over a year. Really, I wonder. I'm not going to remember how to do this.
Well, are you writing? You must be writing something, right?
Yeah, I'm writing. I'm working on 2 albums at the same time.
Good.
And so that definitely keeps me busy. Plus, our beloved Harmony is going up in February in New York. So,
Oh, thank God.
That's kind of another thing that keeps us busy.
Wonderful.
I'm one of the lucky ones that I always have something to do.
Yes, you sure do. I just, for everyone listening, Harmony is a wonderful, beautiful piece of theater that Barry has written with Bruce Sussman. Is it with Jack or just Bruce, this one?
Yeah, no, it's just the 2 of us, yeah.
Bruce. Anyway, but it's lovely, and to hear this coming to New York is wonderful. Wonderful news, Barry.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something before we jump too far into this thing. Last night I was listening to an album of yours, which is a pretty recent one, and it's called 15 Minutes. And
Yeah.
I want to tell you,
Rock and roll album.
I want to tell you something. I was absolutely blown away. And I was blown away, and I've always admired your writing, and I've always admired you as a musician completely. And when I heard that, I went, oh my God, he's bigger than that, than even what I thought. It's extraordinary, and you know what? You pull it off beautifully. I mean, there's not a phony note in there. It rocks. Everybody, this album is called 15 Minutes. What, he made it in 2011, I guess?
Yeah, and it's about what fame can do to you,
Yeah.
And that was the year that Britney Spears shaved her head, and, this beautiful young girl freaking out.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is an interesting story. She's not the only one
Well,
that has been killed by fame and has been confused.
That's right.
So that was the concept of the album, what fame could do to you.
Yeah, well, it's a piece of oral theater, and it's wonderful, and it's awesome. I just wanted to tell you that because it really, it's extraordinary what you did. Just a question, when you're growing up in Brooklyn, we've had so many people we've talked with. We've got Barry Mann was from Brooklyn, and some others as well. What were you listening to at home when your parents raised you? Did they play records for you? What did you hear?
Well, the radio did turn me on. 4 chords have never really turned me on, the 4-chord rock and roll stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what you could hear on the radio. It was doo-wop. Barry Mann was one of the ones that did that. He's a very, very talented guy. Very talented.
Yeah, he sure is.
Really, one of the best. But when I was 13, my mother remarried, and my stepfather was named Willie Murphy. He was he brought with him a stack of albums and a little stereo system. And those stack of albums may have been, as well as been a stack of gold. Because it was the first time I got to hear jazz, classical music, theater music, and some of the great singers of the day, from Judy to Frank Sinatra, to all those great arrangers, Nelson Riddle and Don Costa. I memorized every note of those albums. And those were the albums that affected me the most, not the radio. Those albums, I played them over and over and over. I could sing you the flute line to the overture of The Most Happy Fella. I'm telling you, that's how much I used to listen to those things. And so when I wound up getting into the music business, those were the albums that affected everything I did from that moment on.
I can understand, and I sense and feel that from your work, the work that you record, the work that you write. It's interesting.
So it was odd winding up in the pop music world, because really when I wound up on the radio, I had never really listened to the pop radio while I was, after I met Clive Davidson. Because he's Mr. Pop Radio.
Sure.
And I put on the pop radio and said, well, whatever. And I heard Kung Fu Fighting and Boogie Oogie Oogie. I said, well, these people need me. What is this?
Yeah. Well, you got to infuse it with a little...
Well, I started to be headed. I was headed into that world that I didn't know anything about. Well, and that's why Could It Be Magic, turning into a hit, made no sense. It was an 8-minute record. I had no idea that there was supposed to be 3 minutes. And so they had to edit it down to 3 minutes. But, I really didn't know my way around pop music when I got into it.
Well, it's fascinating. I think what communicates in that song and all of your songs is a depth. And the depth is you know what? It's dare I say, it's actually love that comes across.
There's been a batch of hits that I've had that I didn't write, and a batch of hits that I had that I did. And the ones that I didn't write, I really feel very connected with them, because I took them and made them, as an arranger, made them into the way I would have written them, without touching the writer's book. Mandy was a rock and roll song that Clive gave me.
Right.
And I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I said, really, you want me to do a rock and roll song? And I went into the studio and did that rock and roll version of that Mandy.
Yeah.
And he came in and he said, that's terrible. I said, I know that's terrible. but during the afternoon, I was learning it. I changed around the chords. I put a key change in it. And I played that for him, that version of Mandy on the piano. And he looked at me and said, just do that. And he went back into the control room, and I did that, and it was one take.
Oh, my God.
That's the record. We added for strings, we had a small rhythm section.
Incredible.
That was it. That was the record.
Incredible. And, well, you were coming off of, so you were working with Bette Midler, and the point is that you have chops going further back than that, as a jingle singer and producer, and you are a musician first, and so you seem to know how to do that. In other words, whether or not you knew or saddled up to or sided up to, is that the term? Got close to the pop music world right away, you somehow knew what to do. Did that come from the tight structures of the jingle business, where you kind of...
I did learn a lot. That was my college. Even though I went to Juilliard for a while, I couldn't afford to stay there. But when I got into the jingle business, those musicians really taught me how to orchestrate and how to arrange stuff. Even though it was only 15 or 30 seconds, that was where I learned how to write a catchy melody in 15 seconds.
Right.
Because if I didn't write the best catchy melody, another writer would get that spot. And so I really learned how to write a catchy melody during those 2 or 3 years. And by the time I got into the pop music world, I kind of knew my way around writing hooks. That's what they call it.
Got it.
And so from then on in, I really do give credit to my years in the jingle business. And I met so many great people, singers like Melissa Manchester and Ron Dante and Valerie Simpson.
Wow.
And then all these great engineers years, and honestly, I learned so much during those years.
Incredible. It's interesting, too, the professionalism of the New York scene, any New York scene. It impacted me a lot. Did it you? I mean, obviously, in Los Angeles and Nashville and other places, there is an agreement that you start on time-ish. and in New York, always, or you're dead.
Yeah, I never even think about that, but no, they were very kind to me. They saw something about me, and they all, I'm telling you, they were my teachers.
Wow.
And engineers, I learned so much from all of them. And yes, you're right, before that I worked with Bette. But Bette wasn't a pop singer. She wanted to be a rock and roll singer.
Wow.
And she did a lot of that during my 2 or 3 years with her, with the, leader of the pack. And, but they were my arrangements. And, Do You Want to Dance used to be a rock and roll song. I turned it into a sensuous ballad.
Oh, you did that. Oh, I love that. I love that record, Barry.
Yeah. And, all the other ones that she had, the Boogie Woogie Doodle Boy and all. But, those are the kind of things that she wanted to do. So, it was fun to do and arrange for her and conduct for her.
Yeah.
But, when I went into the commercial business, that was when I started to learn about pop.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And you're...
By the way, speaking of that, so
yes.
after I left her after a couple of years because I started to get more jobs, I couldn't go back on the road with her. So she came over one afternoon and she said, I have a stack of songs that I need to see if I can sing them or which ones I like. So she would take out a piece of sheet music and I'd play it and she would sing it. We went on and on like that. And one of the songs was Trying to Get the Feeling. And he said, I think I might want to do that. But I stole it from her. She'll never forgive me. So I swear to God, she will never forgive me for stealing Trying to Get the Feeling. It was such a great song.
Yes.
And she wasn't going in the studio, and I was. So I got the chance to sing your wonderful song.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I was thrilled that you sang that song. That was awesome. The fact that we I was on Arista at the time, and got to know Clive a bit. And I tell you, were you ever a part of the little what was it like? It was like a court. He would hold court at the Beverly Hills Hotel, Clive, and he'd play new releases that are about to come out, and he'd have artists and producers and friends around, and he'd survey them in the room. Did you ever see that? Were you part of that ever?
No, I heard about his Friday lunches where he would play the latest records.
There you go.
And he would get their reaction, but their reaction was his reaction. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, we did that with Mandy.
I don't know why that was my first year with him. I didn't know anything about that. He just believed in that record, and it was his Arista's first single, and he was determined, after leaving Columbia in such a bad way, he was determined that his first record on Arista record was going to be a #1 record, and it happened to be me. And so between, a really good sounding record and Clive, it went #1. It was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And your relationship with Ron Dante, you co-produced that record? I know you did some of the later ones.
Oh, yeah, Ron and I did like the first 5 albums.
Oh, cool.
And he was, again, he was from the commercial world. He's one of the great commercial sounding singers. Ron Dante is one of those singers because he's got this incredible range and incredible edge to his voice that sounds so great on the radio. So they hire him constantly. Wow. But, Ron and I have that same kind of edge to mine. So the two of us did all my background, just me and Ron. Every record, yeah.
So those ahs are the two of you. Those lush ahs. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. That's lovely. Well, for those listening, Ron Dante, in addition to what Barry just said, was the lead singer for the Archies.
Right, and he didn't have his name on it. It was just the Archies.
Oh, he did. It wasn't Ron Dante and the Archies. It was just the
It was
Archies.
just the Archies, and nobody knows it was Ron.
A bunch of jugheads. That's what they were.
Right.
Hey. Okay, so I'm gonna read for everybody this list of hit songs. Barry, just abide this. Okay, so not that you guys need this, but here it is. Could It Be Magic? Even Now. I Write the Songs. It's a Miracle. Can't Smile Without You. Daybreak. New York City Rhythm, which is a rockin' tune track, by the way. Trying to Get the Feeling Again. His very best song, and and the old songs. Somewhere Down the Road. I love that record. This One's for You. I must say also, Barry, this one's for you. The chords in that thing just are delicious, and the melody, it's gorgeous. Weekend in New England, a beautiful song. Copacabana, Bandstand Boogie, that's the Dick Clark tune. It's the Larry and Les Elgart tune, right? All the Time, Somewhere in the Night, Looks Like We Made It, I Made It Through the Rain, One Voice, Memory, Ready to Take a Chance Again. Oi, stop. It's extraordinary. So my question is this. So there you have this magnificent success, and you're touring like crazy. And in terms of your writing and doing the next one, how did you factor that into that time, that period of time? Did you write on the buses? Did you write on the plane? What was that like?
We would finish up a tour, and then I would sit down and write for the album. Then we'd make the album. Then we'd go back on tour to promote the album. Then I'd come back and I'd write another album, and we'd record another album, and I'd go back on the road. That was my life for 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys who just gets inspired and writes all day long. You may do that. I write on demand. Because when I've tried to do the other, they usually wind up in the trunk. So I would love to send out songs that I haven't recorded to other singers.
Yeah.
But whenever I've done that, they say, well, why doesn't he record it? So they don't record it.
Right. Right.
So I write on demand. I write when I know I have an album to make, or I have an idea for an album, and then I sit down and I am totally obsessed by it for the time it takes to finish it, and then I go into studio, record it, and I don't think about songwriting until the next project. Oh,
interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. The guys that you write with, the lyricists, and they're all superlative. We have Bruce Sussman, Jack Feldman, Adrian Anderson, whom I've written with, Marty Panzer, Enoch Anderson, and you wrote a couple of tunes with Melissa and such. These are great writers. And when you have this project, whether it's an album or whatever it is, you say, okay, men, ladies, you take this melody, you take that melody, blah, 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 or do they give you lyrics, or what? How do you start an album with these lyricists?
Well, I do like writing from a lyric, and I've had four lyricists that I've stayed with since the very beginning. And that's, you're right, you just mentioned it. It's Bruce, it's Marty, it's Adrian, and it's Enoch Anderson. Mm-hmm. And I call them and I say, okay, what do you got? And we talk down what I have been through over the last a year or so. Mm-hmm. So all these songs are very personal sounding because they write for me. Mm-hmm. As if I were writing those words, even though I didn't, but that's what they give me. And so I can put a melody to it, and it does sound very much like Brooklyn Blues is definitely my story. And it just goes on and on for every lyric. Sometimes they go far away, but most of the time they're writing for me specifically. Okay. And I really have stayed with those four lyricists, and they're brilliant lyrics.
They are.
Lyricists.
They're concise. They make
very emotional. They're very emotional lyrics too that I can wrap myself around.
I can see it.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, well, they're concise, and they make pictures, and they're crafted, and they're all the things you'd want. So that's
right.
Yeah. I just want to ask you too. So when you're writing with them, You give them the idea. We talk about your life, and they come up with whatever they've got, and then you get to work at your piano. Do you push their lyric around? Can you say, you know what, that line in the verse, that's the title? And I want to.
Very rarely.
Okay.
David, very rarely. These lyrics that they give me sing to me as I read them. I very rarely call them back and say, I'm having trouble with this scan. They write musically, and it just jumps out of the page for me. I sometimes have written them, in one. COPACABANA, I wrote that in one pass. They gave me the lyric. Her name was Lola. She wasn't sure, but you have to be an idiot not to be able to put a melody. That lyric.
Oh.
I even found that was a few times I've written with the Johnny Mercer lyrics that I inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And, When October Goes, which is one of my favorite songs.
Me too. Yeah.
And I just put the music, the lyric on the piano. I hit the cassette button, remember cassette? I hit the cassette button. Sure. And I just played it. I just played it and sang it, and that was it. It was like it was already there. But again, because he wrote musically, and it was easy to write a melody to that lyric.
Right.
And I've had so many lyricists come to me and try to give me a lyric, and I don't know where the hook is, and I don't know where the verse is, and they just write and write and write, and they're just not musical.
I understand. I understand. Very good. Well, these are wonderful songs that you have all come up with. When I was listening to, last night I was listening to Just Another New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And listening to your piano playing. And it's a gorgeous melody, and it's a beautiful lyric. And but that's a classic song for so many reasons. But your performance on that record is what I wanted to tell you, gush about. It really showed me, wow, that guy really, he's not a songwriter. He doesn't play piano like a songwriter just. You know when to let fly and create, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful work of art.
I don't consider myself a real good piano player because I've worked with so many fantastic musicians, keyboard guys, but I don't know how to do those flourishes and, wonderful arpeggios and stuff, but I know how to accompany. I used to do that for a living. I was a coach before I met that. And, I used to be the go-to coach and accompanist in New York because I play like a band. I play great rhythm, and I know where to get in the way and and so I wound up doing it for myself too. And so when you say, a great piano player, I'm not, but I'm a really good accompanist.
I see.
I know how to accompany myself, and that's what you heard.
I understand. Well, it's beautifully done, and it really embraces the song, and it's kind of perfect. And if you had an accompanist a different person play that song, you would want what you did.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's always a problem to find a great pianist where I don't play. And I've been lucky. I've had a couple of real great guys.
I understand. Yeah, good. Now these legacy projects that you've done, and I can see where they came from and what love you have for this thing. Obviously, you did these. I'm going to just tell the folks there. Barry did a very interesting thing. He was playing in Las Vegas and had a sit down tour in Las Vegas. By the way, in Las Vegas, do you like people coming to you versus you going out to them?
A little bit of both. I got rotored out after about 20 some odd years on airplanes and hotels. I finally said to Gary, I'm done. I'm really done.
Get me out of here.
And as soon as I said that, the Las Vegas Hilton called and asked if I wanted to do a residency.
Oh, interesting.
Because I didn't want to retire, and I loved being with the band, but I just had to get off the road. So that was the perfect job to keep me working and yet not running around the country.
That's lovely. They come to see you every night, different audiences. You might as well be in another city.
Right, and they're great. I have a great time there. Oh, God, I miss doing that. Come on, let's get back to work already.
I know.
I think we're going back in September.
Good.
It's going to be a long time, but I think everybody is probably going back at the end of the summer. I think everything's opening up around that.
Good. Thank God. That's good.
Yeah.
Boy, no kidding. When you do these legacy things, okay. So what Barry did was he had this idea, I guess, with Clive to do greatest hits of the '50s, and then that was a huge hit. And what it was you kind of caressing and embracing these great songs, and like you said before, making them sound like songs you wrote.
Right.
And
I love that was my favorite one. Actually, the first two are my favorite ones. But Clive just wanted to keep on going. We did the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I turned down the 90s because I couldn't figure out a way of doing a ballad of a Madonna song. I just couldn't figure that one out. So I gave up on the 90s. But 4 decades, yeah, that was a lot of songs.
That's a lot of songs. Why, you couldn't have done Like a Virgin, the touch for the very first time.
I really tried to do some of the Spinners things, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so for those people who didn't hear those, you got to go get them. They're classic albums and lovely and very, very successful. Then you did something where you sang an album of Sinatra songs.
Yeah.
And he's your man. And he said something kind of cool. I was reading about this. Where he said when he heard about you, when he was still around, obviously, he said that you were the next one. You were next, right?
Yeah, he had a way of just saying things in one quick sentence. And with me, he said, he's next. And he was right.
He's next.
That was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know what I was doing then. When I started, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I'd never been on a stage and stood up and tried to entertain the public. Honestly, I don't even know why they kept coming, but for some reason, they kept coming. I mean, when I sat at the piano, I was okay.
Yeah.
But getting up and trying to make them laugh or introducing a song, I just was such an idiot. Or walking around the stage and singing, oh my God, I was just a jerk. But they didn't think so. I did, but they didn't think so. And these are the reviewers. I mean, I used to get good reviews even before Mandy. And so that was wild because I knew I was terrible, but they didn't think so. So I owe my whole career to these strangers out.
Incredible. Well, you've certainly picked it up and put it together because, I mean, you are a great performer. What I said in the beginning is true. And so that's something obviously you figured out somehow. Because with the thing that...
It's a real committed job.
I understand. But you could...
You know it, but it's a real commitment.
Yeah.
And, it was a New York Times guy that asked me before I opened up the One Fontaine on Broadway a couple of years ago, and he said, well, the audience is going to have fun. Are you going to have fun? And I said, no, I'm working. But, I guess he thinks I'm just having a ball up there.
Right.
And, it isn't torture, but it's a lot of commitment and very intense.
Right.
But sure, people think I'm having a ball. Great, that's the part of the job that I like. But
that's right.
Wow, it's really it's intense for 90 minutes up there.
I understand. Well, you got to be going for, I'm assuming, that you got to be going for when you're up there, the idea of playing the song that you've played 5,000 times in a new unit of time as if you never played it before, like Tony Bennett would sing I Left My Heart in San Francisco 9,000 times. And so, but what I get when I see you is that you make it real, you make it like now. And your communication is in,
That's the job. I mean, it's got to be the first time I've ever sung it.
That's right.
And I try, it is, for me, it is the first time I've ever sung it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy one for me. I don't know where I got that from, but it it is. Every one of them. Even now, I've never sung it before, and I discover stuff in that lyric that I didn't know on the night before, and that's what the audience is getting the truth of there, because I am telling them my truth right there.
There you go.
I think you can tell the audience your truth, and you've got a little talent, and you will become very successful.
That's the truth. That is right. And that's what people pick up on.
Yeah.
I heard one awesome one the other day, and I have a personal question. You did this thing called My Dream Duets, and
that was fun.
That was awesome. And I was trying to figure out, I listened hard, and I was trying to figure out, where is the new band and where is the original record and where does it start and stop. And you change keys. Again, to inform the people, it's called My Dream Duets, and Barry does duets with Judy Garland and Jimmy Durante and Marilyn Monroe and Louis Armstrong. He gets the original records and somehow finesses it and puts himself in it, and it's like they're looking at each other.
It was I loved doing that. First of all, we found a company that could take their records and remove the orchestra and just give me their vocals. So I put their vocals in my computer and I accompanied their vocals, and when I wanted to change the key, I would take their vocal and transpose their vocal up or down, and I was able to rearrange their famous songs, like Andy Williams' Moon River never had a key change. Well, now it does.
It does, that's right.
And it was fun singing with them. I mean, singing with Whitney in my ears, it got me. It really brought me to tears.
Oh, man, I'll bet. What a great idea. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was really deep. That was the one that really got me, because I knew her, and it hadn't been that long since we lost her, and there she was singing in my ear as if she was standing next to me. Yeah, that was... Oh,
boy. I love the Jimmy Durante thing, which opens it up. That's awesome, because I love Jimmy Durante. But here's my question to you. On that record, you do a duet with Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. Right. And there's a melody that you start with, that you're singing, and actually the band the orchestra is playing, and it's called What a Wonderful Life, and it's a beautiful melody, and I'd never heard it. Is that something you wrote?
Yeah, I decided that I would write a counterpoint to his Wonderful World, and now and again I harmonize with him, but I wrote a counterpoint melody that goes right over What a Wonderful World, and I think it got to work.
It's gorgeous. So what you do is you state the melody first, and sing it like a song, and then comes Mr. Armstrong, and then you restate your original melody over What a Wonderful World, and it's beautiful. It's just really beautiful. So
thanks.
Yeah,
thanks,
you bet.
David. You really did your homework. Thank you.
Well, I'm interested. I feel like you about these songs and this music and the depth of the possibility, the craft of it all. I've spent my whole life being fascinated with it. I don't know about you. I mean, I drive down the street and I listen to, whether it's the Broadway channel or the Beatles channel, or I don't care what it is, and I find myself studying. Always.
Yeah.
It's like, what does it have? So I recognize that quality in you as well. You mentioned a few minutes ago about getting the lyrics to Johnny Mercer's uncompleted lyrics. And how did that come about?
After he passed away, his wife, his widow, Ginger, found an envelope full of lyrics that nobody had ever put music to. And she liked what I did, so she called Arista and asked them if one of the guys would give me this stack of lyrics if I was interested in putting melodies to these lyrics. Really? So I said, yeah. I still have the original manila envelope that she gave me.
Oh, my.
And there were about 35 uncompleted lyrics. I mean, no, they were complete, but no one had ever put music to them before. And like I said, that When October Goes song was the very first one I tried. And it came out of nowhere, and I never touched it after I
My gosh.
Mercer was sitting over my shoulder while I was writing it.
Well, that's a gorgeous song, and it's as good as anything he's ever written with anybody. It's phenomenal. And so when you got the envelope, did you do a happy dance around your house?
I did. And, most of them were good. Some of them weren't completed. Over the years, I've done just about all 35 of them. And some of them, I can actually handle. And some of them are, but I've got, one of these days, I did an album with Nancy Wilson. It's called With My Lover Beside Me. And it's a beautiful, beautiful album. And they're all those songs from the Mercer Manila envelope. They're the ones that I actually put melodies to.
Wow.
And she did a beautiful job on every single one of them. You might want to check that one out.
I would like
Nancy Wilson, With My Lover Beside Me. It's a beautiful album.
Wow. What a privilege. It's a privilege in every respect. So you do these.
That's the best of the Mercer stuff that I was able to do.
Well, you did this other thing. I made a note here. Love is Where You Find It, and at Last. Both of those songs you wrote with Mercer and for Nancy Wilson, and I did hear that.
Beautiful, right?
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
In every way.
Album like that.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting to the end here, but I wanted to just say a few more things about your theater and animated film score work, because it's also just transcendent. It's beautiful. I love the songs that I've heard from Thumbelina.
I just love.
We should have gotten some sort of award for that, but we were so green, we didn't know that we had to force them to take out an ad for some songs and put the songs out there. We didn't do anything. Bruce and I didn't do anything for that movie, and there were so many wonderful songs on that album. We had a great time writing. That's as close to writing for theater as you can get when you're writing for animated movies, because you're writing for situation and character, just like you would in a Broadway show.
Right.
So these characters in Thumbelina needed songs that would move the story along. So we were good at that. And then I did another one for Don Bluth called The Pebble and the Penguin, and they were great too. They were terrific. I love doing them. It takes a long time for one of these.
Of course. Well, they're usually around. I've done a few. It's usually around six tunes ish, give or take. Right?
They have to draw.
Yeah.
And then we did Copacabana as a musical, and that opened in the West End, and that was very successful. And it still runs around. It's got a wonderful score. But the one that we love the most is this show called Harmony.
Yes.
And it's been up on its feet here and there in Atlanta, LA, and we're just trying to get it to New York, and it's the hardest thing to do.
I
get a Broadway musical to New York.
I understand.
Probably tried it. It's so difficult to get it's so expensive. So expensive.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people that believe in it, and we've gotten pretty close. But this time, I think we open in February, and we'll see what happens.
That's great news. Great news. I got there I wrote the thing with Kathy Lee and David Friedman. We did Scandalous. We made it. We didn't have a hit, but we got there. But you'll get there, and deservedly so. Could you tell us about Harmony, please?
Yeah, it's the true story of a singing group called the Comedian Harmonists. They were real, and they were the Beatles of Germany in the 30s. And they were so popular that when I went to Berlin, I went to the Tower Records of Berlin. They had a whole wall of their records, and I'd never heard of them. Nobody in America has ever heard of them. And their story is very compelling because 3 of them were Jewish, 3 of them were not, and the Nazis got them and destroyed everything they did. And it's a beautiful story in Act 1. It's a very sad story of Act 2. It's very deep, and the score is the best thing that I've had anything to do with. And so we'll see what happens.
Well, I wish you very, very good luck with that. I've heard some of the songs on wherever they are. I heard them up there, and what I've heard is terrific. And
it's one of the best things I've ever had anything to do with, and we'll see what happens.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you the very best with that.
And in terms of, well, you know, obviously you just said it. I had a note says pop writers don't generally do well in the theater, and you do. You know what that's about. You've been listening for a long time.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got it. All right. And then I'd like you to please. Oh, I do want to talk about your music project, MANILOW Music Project.
Yeah, about, I guess,
please.
15 years ago, maybe more, there was a guy down here in Palm Springs who said that his daughter wanted to play the saxophone, and her school had run out of instruments. I said they ran out of instruments. So I checked it, and sure enough, all the high schools around the country are running out of instruments because they're not giving them any money. The country's not giving them any money.
Right.
They the first thing that goes is music and art. And so I made it a mission to wherever I go when I'm on the road, I collect instruments. It's like a music thing, and everybody brings in their broken down instruments. We fix them up and we give them to the schools in that city that are running out of them. We've been doing it for 15 years, and I think we're making a dent in whatever city we go to. So that's the MANILOW Music Project.
Oh, that's extraordinary. You've also been doing scholarships. You give kids scholarships.
And we do scholarships, yes. We've been doing scholarships for years. I've been doing that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you're supposed to do. So
Well,
that's what you do to give it back.
But not everybody does that. That's a Menschkeit thing. That's something you do when you mean it and you care.
I started doing that right at the beginning.
Yeah. Wonderful, Barry. Thank you for doing that. Is there anything you'd like to tell our young songwriter, viewer, listeners?
Learn to read music.
Learn to read music.
Learn to read music. You know, singers come to me and musicians come to me. And I always tell them, learn to read music. If you learn to read music, you'll always be able to work. If you can't read music, you're taking a chance on your own talent. That maybe you're talented enough to become Whitney Houston or some great guitar player. But if you learn to read music, you can always work. Work in bands, work in sessions, work. You'll be able to actually have a career. If you can't read music, then you can't go very far. So learn to read.
Very, very good. What would you say, just the last thing, please, what would you say about this famous question about commercialism versus art? This is the thing we could do a whole session on. But in some words, what do you say about that? Obviously people are told, careful, you're selling out, and it's a trap. It's a confusion that people have, and they have it their whole lives. Am I going too far? Is this okay? What would you say about that?
I say turn off the radio. If you're a composer, turn off the radio. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to what's out there. Play what comes from your gut. Write the kind of stuff that only you love, and maybe you'll have a chance of being an original. Because if you start copying, it's all over.
Wow.
It's all over. It just doesn't work. But if you have something, and you actually are an original, turn off the radio. That's what I say.
That's fantastic. That's great advice. I love that. Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with me today. You've given the world so much beauty, and you've dedicated your life to doing what a true artist should do, by the way, which is to inspire and bring love into people's lives. And you really do that. I mean, you really walk that walk. So thank you very much.
Thank you, too.
You bet. That wraps up another episode of Song Sessions. Be with us next time when we'll explore the universe of yet another master songwriter. In the meantime, for all of you hardworking artists out there, keep creating beautiful things for us. This world needs you now more than ever. Until then, bye-bye for now. This is David Pomeranz, and I'll see you on the next Song Sessions. Bye-bye.